Yes. I'm so excited to see you.
As are we always to see all of you.
Yes. So my
Yes.
name's Jenny,
Oh, all right, if you insist.
and my life has been so crazy from beginning.
Crazy is good, or
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know so.
I know so, right? And I just recently, been through a lot and realized I'm actually an Indigo child. I've been through like a major relationship, and then when I asked this moon to ask for a new life,
Yes.
all of a sudden, that relationship ended, like just chaotically with no understanding what happened.
All right.
But then I found my twin flame when I asked for him,
Yes.
and he showed up 5 years ago, and we had the exact life that I wanted to have. But out of the blue, he died of a sudden cardiac arrest on February 20th of
Which
this
means
year.
you're still having that life, because now he is leading you to a higher plane. Because now that the connection has been formed, when you think of him, it pulls your consciousness toward the spirit level so that you may upgrade your vibration. That's the gift he is giving you.
Thank you. That's exactly what he told me.
Well, there you go.
Because I felt his spirit go inside me, and he told me, Jenny, this is part of the process, and that I will be back in a new body.
Yes, but remember, he didn't actually go inside you. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly.
You matched the vibrational frequency and took on those qualities so that you would understand you were in communion with one another. And again, being back in another body, in a sense, you can have that experience, but that's a space-time illusion, because there's no such thing as reincarnation, since everything and everyone exists at the same time. But you can create that experience as if. I'm just describing the difference between an experience and the actual underlying mechanism creating the experience.
That's what I want to ask you, because you
Yes.
mentioned something very interesting to me yesterday, that
Yes.
you said that the spirit is actually outside, and the spirit actually encompasses the body. So it's different.
What I'm saying is the body is a product of the spirit. The spirit doesn't exist by going into the body. The body is coming out of the spirit. Your body is your spirit in physical form.
So how does that work?
What do you mean?
Exactly.
It works very well, thank you.
Because you mentioned that it's a projection.
You are naturally non-physical. You are simply consciousness. You simply exist. So everything that is a depiction or a representation or a reflection of your consciousness is a projection happening within the consciousness, including physical reality. It's not actually out there. There is no out there. There actually really isn't even an in here. Everything exists in this dimensionless point, in this timeless now. But I know your language can be confusing. Within that, there are patterns of vibrational reflections that create different kinds of experiences within the consciousness, some of which seem to be projected outside of you. But that's all happening in your consciousness. Is this making sense?
Yes.
In the same way, perhaps, as an analogy we have often used, if you are standing in the middle, surrounded by a hall of mirrors that goes on and on and on and on at different angles, you see all of the different angles of your reflections. You know that you're not really over there in any of those reflections. You know that you are here in the middle. But you also understand that the reflections can show you different things about yourself, different angles, give you different perspectives, different thoughts about yourself, but you're not moving from the middle, you're just looking at all the reflections. It's similar to that idea going on within your consciousness. And physical reality and your body is just one of those reflections.
Wow.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
You are a multifaceted, multidimensional being of consciousness.
Great.
Yes.
Because I just did quantum healing
Yes.
from Dolores Canyon.
That's an interesting permission slip, yes.
And when you mentioned that, I saw that
There you go.
kaleidoscope of mirrors, and it
There
was a
you
matter of me choosing which facet did I want to see myself in.
Exactly. Because they all exist at the same time, and you get to choose how you focus.
Now,
Yes, it is.
I understand what you're saying. Sometimes, going through this upgrading, I would say. I've been
Yes.
on this journey since 2013.
Oh, all right.
Sometimes I feel like, is this an illusion? And
Yes, and it's real. Let's draw from another movie that exists in your reality. Are you familiar with what you call the Harry Potter series?
yes,
Have you seen them all?
some of them.
Did you see the one that ended the series?
No, I didn't see the last one.
All right, well, I'm going to give you a little spoiler, if I may.
Okay.
There is a moment when the hero, as you say, is having an out-of-body experience in the spirit plane in which his mentor, the wizard, already exists. You follow me so far? Mm-hmm. And the hero asks the mentor, is this real, or is it all just happening in my head? And the wizard says, well, of course it's happening in your head, Harry, but why should that mean it's not real? The illusion is real. Reality is an illusion. It's one and the same. You don't have to make a difference between the two. That's what reality is, an illusionary projection of your consciousness. But that's reality. The only thing that is, as you would say, just to use your words, the real reality is simply that you exist. That's it. It's no more complicated than that. Everything else is a projection. Everything else is an illusion. Everything else is a reflection of the fact that you exist. And it just depends on what you focus on that allows you to have certain kinds of experiences so that you know yourself in as many ways as you can. That's what all that is. Yes?
Yes, and thank you for that. But that takes me to my next question is, I'm on this, ascension journey, and I think part of it, I hear that I need to help more people, but I see a lot of people not changing or not wanting to change.
The idea is not that they change. The idea is that you do what you can to share with them how they might choose to change. That's all you can do. What they do with the information you give them is none of your business. Because you don't know their path. You don't know what they need to experience. But you're giving them at least the option to choose something that might work for them more easily. That's all we're doing with you. We're sharing information with you. It's up to you as to whether to apply it or not. It has nothing to do with our lives. We do this whether you choose to believe us or not, whether you choose to apply the information or not, because this is our passion. What you do with this information is none of our business, because it's your life, not ours. So, same for you. Share, give the choice, give the option, give the opportunity. That's all you can do.
Got it.
Everything else is none of your business.
Got it. Now, I have this experience like 2 years ago. It's very interesting. In Macau, I suddenly, in a crowd of everyone, connected with this guy that I really believe he's alien, and I've always wanted to see.
You are all extraterrestrial hybrids of some sort. Some will exhibit that connection a little bit more than others. Now, do you mean you feel he actually came from off your planet, or simply that his energy was more boldly forward about the connections he may have to extraterrestrial societies? It sometimes can be one or the other, because there are on your planet sometimes what we call the precursors. Usually you don't notice them, but when you do, that's a signal to us you're getting closer to the ability to have open contact. But many of them do walk among you to see if you notice them.
Okay, so that was exactly what happened. It was an Asian guy with a weird gait.
Yes.
The white lady with a weird gait I've never seen before, and a child with the same weird gait that looked hybrid. And everybody did not see them except me, because I asked my husband to see it and my dad. They couldn't see it, and the whole time he was looking at me out of the whole crowd, and we were just watching each other walk away.
Then you saw a precursor family. Congratulations.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that, because I've never seen anything in my life like that.
Well, you'll see more of it now.
And I'm excited, because I think I'm ready. And then one last thing. It's interesting. When I'm sitting out here watching you, I see yellow lights come out of these things. But
that
when
is
I look
often
straight in,
true.
I never see yellow. Why is it that at an angle I see yellow, but when I look straight on, it's a different color?
Because it's happening in a different dimension.
That's kind of what I feel like.
Well, there you go.
That's very weird and interesting.
I think so.
So one last question.
Oh, another last question.
What is death? Like, why?
Death is simply waking up into more of who you remember yourself to truly be. That's all. In the same way that you might have a very realistic dream at night, it seems so real, but then you wake up in the morning in your bed and go, oh, well, even though that seemed very real, this is really me. When you die, it's kind of like that. That physical life seems so real, but this is really me.
So
I'm
you
waking
go
up from
to
a
the
physical
next
dream.
level.
Yes, because you're already there. You're just waking up from this dream.
All right.
You never
We're in a
leave
dream
spirit,
right now,
remember?
right? Yes.
You're there right now. You are all there right now. We are all there right now. We are just dreaming in various ways that we're not, for various purposes. Yes?
Yes.
So you just wake up, and you're already there.
And are our souls...
That was the last question.
I had a feeling. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello, my friend. Good day.
And to you, good day.
I have some exciting questions. I thought I was done asking you questions for the rest of my life, but I have many here. And
All right. Well, it's up to you. You could be done asking us and answer them yourself. It's up
I'm
to
not.
you. All right.
Why do people not remember their dreams when they smoke more marijuana?
Do I really need to answer that?
Yeah. Like, I'm really confused why people don't recollect their dreams when they smoke marijuana.
Because they're putting themselves into a very specific altered state that in and of itself is a very particular kind of dream. Therefore, no other dreams can enter.
Ah, I see. Okay. Very interesting. So when you're in the template level reality. That's a gateway to the
it touches into
template
it, but it's not purely the template level reality, no.
Okay. So in a way, can the substance marijuana be used to help the cultivation of the dream realm? In that
To some degree in specific ways, but it's not exactly designed to do that.
Okay.
That's more of an ayahuasca experience.
Gotcha. Because people will start going on the path of development and doing the internal work. But I see people like in the meditation practice energetic arts, and then they smoke weed, and I can like see it kind of like will halt processes or revert processes.
It can, because again, remember, there are different things that happen with the different teachers. They're designed to do things in a different way. The idea of the teacher that you're referring to as marijuana is more of the idea of a lubrication effect to sort of get you ready for something else. It doesn't necessarily go that far unto itself. It is more of a preparatory vibrational energy for something else, for other teachers. But again, remember, as always, it's to get you to understand how to create that state for yourself so that you're not constantly relying on the teacher, which if you continue to do past the point where you can create the state yourself, you're then using the teacher as a crutch, and it can become an addiction, whether physical or psychological or emotional.
Yes.
So the idea is to learn the lessons, understand the state, and then advance and graduate from that state.
Yes. It's part of the, you've said that a lot of people on this planet, we think we're adults, but we're not.
No.
Because a lot of people still have pacifiers, know, in a sense, like,
Many permission
pacifiers.
slips are pacifiers, yes.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
That
You're
is okay.
maturing,
Yeah.
so you'll get there.
And so, but that gets to the integration of the point where you guys are at, where it's all integrated, all experiences are contained within.
Yes.
So in a sense, with your collective consciousness of your planet, you can feel any substance or spirit that's been transmitted through those plant substances.
Yes.
Yeah. And get more from it than actually doing it in a physical
Yes.
route way, because that would be the longer path.
Yes, because we're going to the pure essence of it vibrationally.
Awesome.
Because remember, what exists in physical reality, in a sense, exists first on a higher non-physical plane as a template. So we just go to the template.
Awesome. Awesome. And as far as that is concerned,
Yes.
did the Atlanteans smoke marijuana?
Yes.
I thought so. Did they have rollerblades?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so either. And can you tell me about what it means in the Bible when Jesus became ordered into the priesthood of Melchizedek?
That didn't happen exactly as many people think.
Okay.
So, since it didn't happen the way many people think, we're not sure exactly how to respond to your question.
Well, it is said that Jesus would just, I'm spacing on it right now, but forever written in the book of like the priesthood of Melchizedek.
Well, the idea of that is simply the recognition that there are certain teachers, masters that reflect the idea of all that is coming through them more than what is typical for many humans, especially at that time. Therefore, it creates a certain mark, a certain vibration, a certain imprint on the reality, and that imprint is recorded.
In this thing that, is talked about in ancient Egypt being written in the book of life by Tot.
Yes,
and
this
so,
is very
okay.
different than what many of you think. It's happening on a very different dimensional level in a very different way. When it's said that it's written into the book, it's not exactly the idea of writing.
Yes,
it's
yes.
something very different. We'll have to go into that in more depth another time because it requires an understanding of interdimensional physics.
Okay.
And we'll have to set the stage for that and the foundation for that so you will understand what is actually being said.
Understood.
So we'll do that another time.
I'm excited for that. I recently moved to LA. I spent a solid year plus in the Redwoods doing a lot of the cryptic training. It really called to me. And now I'm living in LA.
Yes.
And I've been having dreams about the Redwoods that they're calling me, that we're still friends.
Then
and
go.
Yeah, oh yeah, but what I'm saying is asking, like, integrating that into the LA experience.
You can.
I feel that, like, through my own astral experience, my own initiations, that even people within this realm, like, in those states, I become so foreign to everyone because of those things I've experienced.
Oh, absolutely. Going the path of the cryptic and beyond makes you, in some sense, very foreign. Yes, that goes with the territory. Being a shaman in that sense is not what you would consider to be a typical life. So it's going to contain a lot of what most people would consider to be foreign elements. But if they're true for you, they're true for you.
And so that's the main theme we're going here on planet Earth, is being able to transition these parallel realities where I could go out into the forest and fast for days and get super weird, that people wouldn't understand that anything.
You have a costume that goes with that?
I do.
SW on it?
I do.
Super weird.
But to transition and it's into these realities and only give people what they might know. So that kind of feels like a mysterious thing.
Yes, well, mystery is the spice of life.
Yes. And as far as mystery being the spice of life and the journey of the fairy tales and being one on the shamanic journey and everyone having those seeds within them to unfurl, that is also, because I see this as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, because people might really expand to the tip top and start going with that, but then they might look at their bank account and realize something's not integrated.
Then there is some belief system work to do, but also they must drop the expectation and insistence that it must look that way. Because remember, it's not about whether the outside changes that tells you you've changed. It's about whether you respond differently to the outside, even if it still looks the same, that tells you you've changed.
Yes, got it. So there's those things in my own consciousness when I'm out in the forest at those levels where I feel that it's okay to abandon society, but I don't, and I come back and I pay my car bills.
All right,
and everything.
That's fine.
But there's, to a certain point.
Remember that even the idea of the Zen Buddhists tell you that some of the most spiritual things you can do is chop wood and carry water. Because you are having a physical experience. And therefore there is nothing unspiritual about the typical things that you choose to do to honor the idea of your physical experience in the reality you chose to be in.
Yes.
Just do them spiritually.
Yes.
Shop spiritually.
I love that.
Shop like a Zen master. Shop like a shaman. Pay your bills like a shaman.
Oh, I love
Whatever it is that you create synchronistically that works for you, if it is representative of your true passion, do it like a shaman.
Beautiful. I love that.
And don't squeeze the shaman.
Don't squeeze. I love that. That's beautiful. And Last question,
We
Bashar.
so love your society.
Yes. Last question. Once upon a time, you talked about ascension is nothing more than raising your frequency, becoming more of your true self.
Yes.
But then you also talked about the idea of spiritual ascension within the spiritual plane. Could you talk
It's just a
about that a little
continuation
more?
of that idea.
Okay, that's what I thought, because like in
The raising of a vibration never ends. Never ends, because it never began.
the raising your vibration never ends because it never began.
Not really. Even though you have the experience taking place in what seems to be time, remember, time is a creation within existence.
Existence, yes.
So, yes, you can create the idea that it began and that it might have a cycle and it might have an ending or it might go on to some other level. But that's all taking place within existence simultaneously. You're just experiencing it as an unfolding in linear terms.
Yes.
So it's just a continuation of the raising of your frequency.
Beautiful. And as far as I did. You caught me again. Okay, thank you, my friend.
Please fly away, super weird.
I wish I was witty as you.
I am absolutely weirder than any of you can imagine. So I am hyper weird.
Hi, Bashar.
And you good day.
Okay, I wanted to ask, I'm synchronistically adopting a kitten who will be living with me at the end of this month.
How exciting that you bring a being in that can see in other dimensions.
Yeah, that's what
Enhance your own senses and also provide a healing environment for you.
I was going to ask you also what our stellar connections are with each other, me and the kitten.
Well, it's a multitude of things. Sirius is prominent in it. And that's as far as we'll go with that for the moment until you do more exploring with the kitten itself.
Okay, are there any suggestions as far as like a permission slip or something with her?
Your kitten.
Okay. That's it.
That's it? Are
Yeah.
you sure? Are you sure?
I think so.
Think again. Take a moment.
Okay.
Why has the kitten entered your life at this time? Why now?
That's a good question.
Thank you. Do you have a good answer?
No?
Sure you do. What's the attraction now? Do you want me to make this question easier?
Sure.
Why a kitten and not some other animal? What's the affinity?
I feel very connected to felines.
Why?
Lyran connections?
A little, but that's not the major reason. Why a cat?
I feel like a cat sometimes.
Do you?
Yeah, a lot actually.
I see. And what do you do when you feel like a cat?
Cat stuff, like physically. Yeah, like everything from like crawling and stretching and pawing. Yeah, it gets weird.
And when you're in that state, no matter how weird it may seem, when you're in that state, do different kinds of thoughts come to you?
Yeah.
Like?
Like they're not really thoughts. It's more like I am a cat.
All right. And being a cat allows you to perceive.
Multidimensionally?
Is that a question?
No.
Is it an experience?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the cat helps amplify that for you?
Yeah, very much.
Reflect that for you? And by allowing yourself to go that fully into the vibration, does that not allow you to have clearer communication with a cat by being a cat?
Yeah.
Is the idea of shape-shifting into different animal energies not part of the shamanistic experience?
Yeah. Yeah. And that makes sense. That's kind of how I.
No, that's why I said it.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that helping move this along a little
Yeah.
bit more?
Very much.
All right. Then play with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Love you.
And you as well.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about dreams.
Yes.
What is the place in between being awake and being in a dream state? I find myself
It's
there a
the
lot.
in-between. Literally, the in-between. There is, between one dimensional realm and another dimension. You might think of it as the framework between the dimensions that separates them, but the separation is itself a dimension, the in-between. It's where certain kinds of beings live, inhabit, some of which can be represented in different ways in different cultures, such as in the native culture of Kachinas.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it is literally crossing through a dimension to get to another one.
Okay.
The web that holds them together is its own dimension.
I find that I have some supernatural type of experiences in that state.
Yes, well, it's all natural, but we understand what.
Oh, yeah. How do you know what is a dream and what's like an etheric type of experience? I mean, how can you differentiate between the two?
Well, you don't really have to. All you really need to focus on is what do you get out of it? What are you learning from that experience, and how can you apply it in your life as an energy state or as an action? It doesn't really matter where it comes from because they all come from the single source of all that is to begin with anyway. So the idea really doesn't necessarily have to be differentiated that much, or if there is a purpose for that differentiation, that information will come with the experience. But for the most part, it's more about applying what you get out of having that experience, no matter where it comes from.
Okay, because I have I dream. Well, I guess we dream all the time, but I remember my dreams
Yes.
often,
Yes.
and they're very vivid and colorful and
All right.
realistic.
All right.
And so when I come out of these dreams, I always, I have dreams of, for instance, yesterday you mentioned sometimes when you're coming from a ship, you might have a
Yes.
feeling of ascension.
Yes.
That spoke to a dream that I had.
Yes.
A feeling I was on a ship and I was being lowered.
Yes.
And but how do you know if that's not just something that's supposed to be symbolic of something else that's going on in your life, or is that an
It might
experience
be.
that you might
It
have?
might be. It might be either. But again, the point is, what are you getting out of having had the experience itself? What are you learning about that particular arrangement of symbols? Because even if it is representative of something in your language that happened, it's still an arrangement of symbols in your mind to represent it. So when you feel through it, when you study how it made you feel, what state it put you in, what thoughts come from that state, that it might even just be sufficient to open up a mystery. What happened? What really happened? It stretches you. It makes you seek.
Oh, okay.
So it might only be for that purpose.
Well, it
So
definitely
you
did
don't
that.
necessarily have to read more into it than that.
Okay.
But if more information is forthcoming, it will come.
Okay. Yeah, I tend to have a lot of these.
You're not missing anything.
Oh, okay.
All right?
Oh, okay. I didn't know if I was missing anything.
You're
or
not
I just
missing
want to know how
anything.
to apply it more to my awake life. And
That's how.
that's how.
Look for the mystery. All the answers lie in the mystery, in the unknown.
Okay. And I've had quite a few experiences with what we would call ghosts, maybe here in our
Yes, lower astral.
Yeah. So does that have something to do with my my dreaming, the way that I dream, that I attract these
Yes,
kinds of
it
experiences?
might be, or well, it's not that necessarily you attract them, it's that you're attracted to them.
Oh, okay.
Because
I'm
you
attracted to
might
them.
be practicing helping people cross over who might be confused about where they are when they die. Yes.
Well, I actually, my grandmother came through in that weird space in between awake and sleep. She had passed several months ago.
Yes.
And I had a vision of her walking across the hallway, and I heard her speak my name, and it was really powerful because I just miss her so much, and hearing her voice,
Yes.
and it was audible. I mean,
Yes, we
very.
understand, of course.
Oh, yes.
So you might be practicing becoming, well, I know you have on your planet crossing guards, but you might be becoming a crossing guide.
Oh, okay. When I was younger too, my grandfather came to see me after he passed as well.
So you see, you have the ability to perceive these things, which means generally you probably have the ability to help them because you can perceive them.
Okay.
So you might be able to begin that on this side as well as continue it on the other side when you decide to cross.
Oh, okay. All right. So I'll explore that a little bit more then.
By all means.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
Thank you again for being here. This is always such an honor and a privilege.
And for us as well.
You had mentioned in a prior transmission that there are 13 individuals on this planet who share a similar vibratory level as your society.
Close, yes.
So I was recently initiated into the Amartya tradition,
Yes.
and I'm wondering if any of the Amartya masters are among those 13.
None of you know any of them yet.
Okay. Will we?
Yes. But not yet.
Okay, sweet.
Is that it?
Had another question
Yes.
about black holes.
Yes.
Is a black hole a physical representation of another universe?
It might be a gateway to one.
Okay. So you had mentioned a race of beings that were very technologically advanced that could go to the surface of a black hole.
Yes, it's not even the idea of technology as you understand it. It's just their nature that they can extract all the information of the universe from the event horizon of a black hole. Because the event horizon captures all the information around it interdimensionally. So they have the ability, because of their interdimensional nature, to actually extract information from black holes, yes.
Okay. And that just basically gives them all the information of the universe.
It gives them what they need, yes. Because they themselves are kind of involved or connected to what we described a moment ago as the in-between. They're another type of being that inhabits the in-between, which is why they're not physiologically affected by the idea of black holes in any negative way.
Mm-hmm. Is our universe a black hole? Are we living within a black hole?
Of a type, but that would be misleading to actually say that the answer is yes.
Okay.
Will that do?
Two other questions. Number one, are there humans on other planets?
You mean Earth humans?
Yes. Or people from like Earth human lineage that have gone off planet?
Yes.
Do they come back?
Some.
Is there anything else?
I thought you said you had two questions.
Okay. My last question is...
A third question, then.
My friend Patty asked me to ask a question
Yes.
on her behalf. She's wondering why she gets insights for so many other people, but she has no insight as to her own future.
Because she doesn't need it. All she has to do is keep living, and she'll see exactly what it turns out to be.
Perfect.
In hand. All right. This is called Orinoco's Quest. Orinoco Sandoval was a 13-year-old hybrid girl with caramel eyes that matched her warm complexion. Her wide, friendly face was framed by long, straight hair, black as a crow, typical of the inhabitants of the lush jungle that bordered the Amazon Sea in the year 2533. She stood atop an ancient Mayan pyramid that gave her an incredible view of the jungle canopy, but her sights were set much farther north toward the land once known as Venezuela. Some still referred to the original country names for convenience, but Orinoco had grown up hundreds of years after the sea levels rose, hundreds of years after the landing, and just as long after deconstruction and restoration had transformed most of the planet back to a relatively natural state. Thus, she knew no borders save those drawn by nature, such as rivers, lakes, mountain ranges, and oceans. The place she would travel to was now known only by its most stunning natural feature, Cueva del Fantasma, which meant the cave of the ghost. Though in reality a collapsed gorge rather than a true cave, Fantasma was nevertheless impressive. Its ceiling was over 600 feet high, and it hosted a towering waterfall at the entrance. Orinoco would begin her vision quest there, and then move through the twisting tunnels of the other cave systems nearby in her search for a vision that would reveal her purpose in life. However, it was said that 3 great guardians lived in the caves and that one must pass their tests in order to receive a vision. Orinoco's mother, father, grandparents, and older siblings had been preparing her for the journey that her grandmother, Magdalena, had taken when she was Orinoco's age. Magdalena had invented puzzles and games to sharpen Orinoco's wits and tasks to strengthen her body and boost her confidence, but she was still nervous, especially because her grandmother wouldn't tell her what the guardians were like or what the tests would be. She would only say that each person must find out for themselves or the tests wouldn't count and no vision would come. The only thought that allowed Orinoco to relax, even if only a little, was the knowledge that her grandmother's vision quest led her to become a powerful medicine woman, cherished and respected far and wide for her wisdom and knowledge of healing plants and herbs. So how hard could it really be? Perhaps the suspense at the beginning of the journey was part of the test as well. Orinoco took several deep breaths and gazed upon the verdant jungle that stretched before her. She felt herself grow calm, or at least less nervous. She clambered down the pyramid steps and raced down the dirt path toward home so she wouldn't be late for evening meal. Her mother, Octavia, was making black bean risotto and sweet onions sautéed in lemon garlic sauce, along with plantains drizzled in maple syrup for dessert. It was best if the main meal was eaten while still hot, before it cooled into mushy paste. That night after supper, Orinoco leaned against the wood railing on the wraparound covered balcony of her family's 2-story adobe house, the smell of the jungle in her nostrils as she gazed out at the Amazon Sea through the trees, mesmerized by the moonlight that danced on the water. Her father, Santiago, brought out 2 glasses of sweet tea and handed one to his daughter as he joined her to admire the view. Though Orinoco's mother was a hybrid, Santiago was human, a gentle man of great warmth and deep insights. He stood quietly next to Orinoco and inhaled the night air, perfumed by rare jungle flowers. Papa, see, mija. What if I don't receive a vision? How will I know my purpose? Your purpose is the same as everyone's, to be you the best you can be, Santiago assured her. We each express our purpose differently by acting on what gives us passion in life. Your vision may reveal the best way to follow your passion, may allow you to discover something deep inside yourself that you weren't aware of. If you learn from what the vision shows you and use the knowledge to more fully express your true nature, you will fulfill your purpose in life. Orinoco absorbed her father's wisdom as she sipped her tea. You mean like mother's art? Yes, but it's not just about painting, her father said. It's about what her paintings reveal about her spirit, her soul, and how they act as mirrors for others, to bring forth thoughts and feelings they didn't know were hidden within them until they gazed upon your mother's beautiful works of art. I hope I have a vision as strong as grandmother's, Orinoco said. Santiago's laugh was soft and soothing. Wish for a stronger vision, mija. Children should aspire to be greater than those who came before. Later, Orinoco tossed and turned in her bed, unable to sleep. All manner of strange creatures inhabited her imagination as she wondered what she might encounter on her quest. Her mother, Octavia, gently knocked and entered. I thought you'd be awake, she said with a smile. She set a cup of hot peppermint tea on Orinoco's bedside table. The fragrant brew always helped her drift off, although Orinoco wasn't sure she could be lulled into slumber this night. However, the aroma was soothing. She sat up, took the cup in hand, and inhaled the steam as her mother sat next to her on the bed. You're lucky, Mama, Orinoco said. I only need to look at you, mija, to know that. I mean, because you always knew your gift. You didn't need to go on a vision quest, Orinoco sniffed. Our callings come to us in different ways, her mother said. I believe you are luckier than I am. How am I lucky? Orinoco said with a puzzled look. You get to go on a grand adventure like Mama Magda. Who knows what you'll discover on your quest? I'm very excited for you, Orinoco." Orinoco sipped her tea and felt its warmth course through her. "I'll do my best," she promised. Feeling sleepy, she put down the tea and snuggled under the covers. Octavia stood and lowered the room's luminaria to a soft firelight glow. "Just be yourself, Mija, you'll do fine," she kissed Orinoco's cheek. "I wish you could come with me," Orinoco said with a yawn. Octavia's dark eyes reflected the warm glow of the lamp as she held her daughter in a loving gaze. "Just know that when you think of me, I'll be thinking of you." Octavia closed the bedroom door as she left. The scent of peppermint filled the room, and Orinoco slipped into a deep sleep. In her dream, she floated in an endless sea of stars. Early the next morning, before the sun had fully risen, Orinoco set out on her vision quest, water and food secure in her backpack. Her family waved to her from the veranda as she headed down the path. She glanced back and tucked the image of their wide smiles into her memory before she took a deep breath and melted into the jungle. Orinoco walked for half a day before she came to the Cave of the Ghost. It was traditional to stop and rest there on the way to the Vision Caves. So she sat on a large boulder near the entrance and inhaled the cool mist from the thundering waterfall. Invigorated, she laid out some of her favorite fruits and nuts from her backpack onto a crisp white linen napkin. These weren't for her. They were an offering to the nature spirit called Balam that inhabited the enormous cavern. Balam was the guardian of the underworld. So to gain permission to enter the caves where Orinoco would begin her vision quest, an offering had to be made at the Cave of the Ghost first. If Balam accepted the offering, she could continue along the path. If not, she would have to go home and try again another day. She placed the food on a flat rock just beyond the waterfall that cascaded from the plateau high above the cave entrance. As her family had instructed, Orinoco called to the spirit and then went back to her boulder to wait. She wouldn't touch her own food until the offering had been accepted by Balam. Orinoco didn't have to wait long. Balam emerged from the shadows deep within the cave and approached the food. Orinoco had heard tales of this particular nature spirit since she was a young child, but to witness the entity in person sent a shudder through her that was at once both thrilling and terrifying. Balam was what the locals called an alabrije, a chimeric creature with the head and body of a jaguar, ram horns, eagle wings, sharp talons on its hind legs, and the long, sinuous tail of an iguana. It was also gigantic. If it had been a living creature rather than a spirit, it would have easily weighed 1,000 pounds. Orinoco was riveted on the being and felt a sensation like ants crawling on her skin as Balam swept his gaze to her like a searchlight. The chimera lowered its massive head to the food and let out a deep purr loud as an engine. The vibration penetrated Orinoco and released a mist of energy from the fruits and nuts she had offered the spirit. Balam inhaled the etheric vapor, whereby the physical food withered to dust in seconds, as though weeks had passed in a blink. Balam bowed his head to Orinoco in thanks. She had the good sense to bow her head in return. The jaguar spirit plucked a glistening feather from one of its wings with his teeth and laid it on the linen, a sign that Balam had given Orinoco permission to continue her quest. The jaguar spirit turned and vanished back into the shadows. Orinoco jumped down off her perch and gathered the feather along with the linen. She wasn't sure what else she was supposed to do with the unexpected gift, but she was sure it would somehow help her on her quest once she entered the cave system farther along the path. She quickly ate her midday meal, drank from the waterfall, wrapped the feather in the linen, and carefully tucked it in a side pocket in her pack. She headed out along the path, accompanied by the varied sounds of the jungle, until, a few hours later, she arrived at the foot of a stone stairway that had been carved into the cliff face of a towering mesa. It wound around the formation, sometimes passing through it where tunnels had been cut. The cave where Orinoco would begin her quest was near the top. As she began to climb, Orinoco made sure to keep her eyes on that stairway, as many of the steps were cracked and uneven.
She'd heard stories that now and then some who had started the climb lost their footing and fell to their deaths. Her mother and father made her promise to keep her eyes on the path and not be tempted to look out over the countryside as she climbed, no matter how spectacular the view might be. Orinoco felt a wave of vertigo as she neared the top because the staircase was barely wide enough for a single person, and there was no wall or railing to keep one from plummeting to the ground 2,000 feet below. Finally, at dusk, she reached the cave entrance, an ominous-looking gash in the sheer cliff face. She pulled a small luminaria globe, about the size of an orange, from her pack and tapped it to golden light. This was it, the true beginning of her vision quest. She took a deep breath, exhaled, and as she bit her lower lip to hold her fear at bay, she entered the dark cave's yawning maw. The luminaria threw long shadows from the stalactites that hung from the ceiling like jagged teeth. Through the cave had been cut by flowing water eons ago. There were still deep pools in many of the wide chambers that were fed by seasonal rains that dripped through the cracks in the vaulted roof. Orinoco descended deep into the heart of the sandstone monolith. The dancing shadows created by her light took on ominous shapes in her imagination and often startled her. Time felt suspended. Each minute felt like an hour. Orinoco soon lost all sense of time and direction as she walked, climbed, and crawled through the wet, winding pathways. Finally, a faint blue light in one of the branching tunnels caught her attention. She took the passage until it opened into an enormous cavern that sheltered a lagoon that was several hundred feet across. The ghostly glow emanated from deep under the surface of the still water. As Orinoco's eyes adjusted, the eerie luminescence grew brighter. She realized with some apprehension that it was because the light was heading toward her. She stepped back from the narrow ledge that bordered the lagoon and watched from within the shelter of the tunnel. Ripples radiated on the surface as a giant salamander elemental raised its wide, flat head above the water and looked at Orinoco through eyes dark as ink. The ethereal creature emerged from the lagoon and pulled itself onto a large flat boulder where Orinoco could see its slick, slime-coated body. It was a deep bluish black, splotched with neon blue spots that illuminated the cave. The elemental uttered a challenge with a voice like liquid light. If you wish to pass, then knowledge is your key. The answer's in plain sight. Just tell me what you see. Orinoco gathered her courage and stepped back into the cavern. She looked around as she tried to fathom the salamander's meaning. There was nothing unusual about the cavern except that there were several tunnels on the opposite side of the lagoon that led off in different directions. She didn't see anything that made one tunnel stand out over another. Orinoco wondered how she would know which tunnel to take if she made it past the elemental. That must be the test, she thought. Since there were no other clues in the cave, she turned her attention back to the salamander. Its rubbery skin reminded her of the deep velvety purple color of the night sky just after dusk, when stars began to twinkle. It suddenly hit her. The glowing spots on the elemental's body weren't random. They looked exactly like the constellations her father had taught her about on the evenings they spent staring at the night sky from their balcony. The Pleiades were there, along with the Orion constellation and its 3 belt stars, that if one drew an imaginary line through them, pointed directly at the brightest star in the sky, Sirius. The spot on the salamander that represented Sirius glowed brighter than all the other asterisms on its body. Its light also illuminated one specific tunnel. Your body is the night sky, Orinoco exclaimed, and Sirius lights the way. Well done, daughter of night, the salamander said. You may continue on your quest. The elemental slipped back into the water, and its body no longer blocked Orinoco's view of the stepping stones that led across the lagoon to the tunnel. She followed the path, entered the tunnel, and continued on her way. The tunnel was filled with sharp, jagged boulders that Orinoco had to climb over or squeeze around. Often she had to remove her backpack and push it ahead of her in order to fit through a narrow space. After what felt like an eternity, she emerged into another large cave, her hands, arms, and legs covered in small cuts from the razor-edged rocks. She stood, held up her luminaria, and peered into the domed cavern. An enormous spider web stretched across the entire expanse of the cave, and in the center, a huge black tarantula with 3 blood-red spots on its abdomen clutched the web with 8 spiny legs, each one 3 times the length of Oronoko's arms and thick as tree branches. Her luminaria was reflected in all 8 of the spider's enormous eyes, but it also revealed several skeletal remains and desiccated corpses caught in the sticky web. Oronoko felt cold fear grip her heart. She took several deep breaths as Magdalena had taught her and slowly felt the warmth of her resolve flood back into her veins. The spider's voice was an eerie whisper that made Oronoko's skin crawl. If you wish to pass, then stealth will be your key. Make your move along a path that my eyes cannot see. Oronoko studied the web. There were several gaps between the web strands that were large enough for her to pass through without getting stuck, but there was no way to approach the gossamer trap without the spider watching her every move. She thought of extinguishing the luminaria, but then she'd have no way of finding a safe path in the dark. Besides, the tarantula was used to living in the dark. It could probably sense her even if the cave was pitch black. That's it, she realized. The spider lives in the dark. Oronoko held the luminaria overhead and tapped it to full brightness. It was blinding as a miniature sun. The tarantula emitted a high-pitched whine and shielded all 8 eyes with its forelegs. Oronoko ran for the gap in the web before the spider's eyes could adjust. One of the giant arachnid's spine-covered legs shot out to snare her, but Oronoko was through the gap in a flash. The spider's legs scraped against the cave wall with a sound like nails on slate. Oronoko kept running until she was well beyond the tarantula's reach. Oronoko lowered the luminaria's light to a soft glow as the spider rotated its body around and peered at her through the web that prevented it from pursuing her. Well done, daughter of light, the spider says. You may continue on your quest. Oronoko bowed her head as a sign of respect and headed down the tunnel at the far end of the spider's den. She continued through the new tunnel, which was more round and smooth than the other passages had been. It twisted and turned and snaked its way through the mountain until it came to a dead end where a waterfall plunged downward into a wide, dark hole. The luminaria did nothing to reveal how deep the hole went, and without a rope in her backpack, Oronoko had the sinking feeling that she would either have to jump into the black pit or go back the way she came to try another route. It didn't make sense to her to face the spider and the salamander again, so she decided to take a leap of faith, as her grandmother must have done. Oronoko held her breath and jumped. She only fell a few yards before the hole curved into a smooth, tubular waterslide. She held the luminaria tight against her chest as the rushing water carried her through curves, dips, straightaways, until the gush of water flushed her from the tunnel and deposited her on her back in a shallow river that coursed through the next cavern. She slid to a stop a few feet from the coiled scales of a titanic sleeping serpent. Oronoko backpedaled toward the tunnel exit. She knew there was no way back up the water-drenched slope, so she stood and pressed her back against the cave wall. She tapped the luminaria down to its dimmest setting in the hope that the serpent would remain asleep if the cave was dark. Oronoko tiptoed to the cave's perimeter as she searched for a path around the snake, but the serpent woke and uncoiled its tail to block her way. Its head rose 10 feet in the air. Its burnished scales gleamed like copper in the dim light. Its glistening yellow eyes stared down at Oronoko as it flicked its forked tongue to taste her fear. She backed away, but there was no place in the cavern the serpent couldn't reach. The only tunnel out was high up on the cave wall. She realized that if she couldn't solve this guardian's challenge, she'd be doomed. If you wish to pass, then perception is the key, the snake hissed. Tell me what is real and what simply cannot be. The snake slithered to the back of the cavern to reveal 3 objects that had been hidden by its massive coils. A small tree with green leaves, a large white stone cube with the words, "This cube is black," chiseled on it, and a conical stalagmite that rose from the cave floor to a height slightly taller than Oronoko. She focused on the tree, the cube, and the stalagmite in turn, as the serpent's riddle played over and over in her mind. Tell me what is real and what simply cannot be. Orinoco's gaze went back to the tree. Its roots dipped into the river that drained from the cavern through cracks in the floor, but they were much too narrow for an escape route. She tapped the luminaria to brighten the light so she could see the tree more clearly. It dawned on her. Light! Without her light source, the cavern would normally be pitch black. A tree cannot grow without light. She pointed to the tree and said, "The tree is not real." As soon as the echo of her words faded, so did the evergreen illusion. Only the cube and the stalagmite remained. "Very good," said the serpent. Orinoco's eyes flickered back and forth between the last two objects. Stalagmites were, of course, common to caves, so it could be real. The white cube that proclaimed itself to be black seemed like an obvious fallacy, but it felt too obvious. There was a trick here, but Orinoco struggled to parse it. "May I touch the object?" she asked the snake. "Be my guest," it answered, stretching out the word guest. Orinoco placed her palms on the cube in the chance the white coloring would rub off to reveal blackness underneath. However, the cube retained its alabaster sheen. She turned her attention to the stalagmite. Her eyes tracked upward from the floor to its tip. Her gaze continued upward to the ceiling. Something was wrong, though she couldn't immediately put her finger on it. She brightened her light and craned her neck as she searched the cave roof. There was no sign of a dripping water that would have formed the calcified cone, let alone a stalactite pointing downward. Of course, a stalagmite cannot form without a stalactite forming first. Orinoco pointed to the stalagmite. "This isn't real." The stalagmite crumbled into dust and was washed down the cracks by the river. "Excellent," the snake hissed. The cube was the only thing that remained. But since the tree and the stalagmite were illusions, did that mean the statement on the cube was true? Orinoco thought that maybe it was only an assumption on her part that one of the objects had to be real. Maybe they were all illusions. She puzzled over it for several minutes and thought back to all the puzzles her family had created to train her for this quest. She thought about the science her father taught her, the wisdom her grandmother had shared, and the tricks of light and color her mother used in her art. Light and color, a white cube that said it was black. This was a puzzle about light and color. The serpent said that perception was the key. She remembered the science behind perception. She only saw the cube as white because the full color spectrum was being reflected from the cube to her eyes. No color remained with the cube, therefore the cube was, in fact, actually black. She backed away from the cube and faced the serpent. The cube is real. The cube remained, and the serpent bowed its massive head in respect. "Well done, daughter of sight. You may continue on your quest." The serpent rested its head on the cave floor. "Climb upon me," it said. Orinoco suspected this might be another test and hesitated. "Fear not," said the snake. "I am your way out." She realized what he meant. She gently stepped onto his wide, flat head as he slowly lifted her up to the tunnel high up in the cave wall. Orinoco stepped off into the tunnel and turned to the serpent. "Thank you." "May your vision be strong," said the snake. Orinoco smiled, bowed, and headed down the tunnel. The path was straight and smooth and opened onto a wide ledge that overlooked the jungle canopy far below. The sky was full of stars, and the full moon frosted everything in silver. Orinoco was transfixed by the beauty of the panorama that stretched to the horizon. She felt that her heart might burst with joy, and that, if she would only spread her arms, she could fly. Then Orinoco remembered the feather that Balaam had gifted to her. She carefully pulled it from her pack and held the quill before her eyes. It gleamed in the moonlight, a symbol of promise and possibilities beyond imagination. Her heart was lifted and her body felt lighter than air. This was her final test, a true leap of faith. She clutched the silvery plume as tight as she could, stretched her arms wide, and sprang from the ledge. But rather than plummet to her death, she rose into the night sky, toward the stars that gleamed like jewels set into the velvet void. Orinoco flew higher and higher until she broke through the atmosphere and sped into space. She flew faster and faster through the airless ocean of stars and suddenly realized that it was her spirit that had soared beyond the grip of Earth's gravity while her body remained far below in the land of the living. She felt an indescribable freedom, an unbound and limitless potential within her. She understood with sudden crystal clarity that her place and her purpose was among the stars. She was an explorer and would chart a course through the heavens, guided by the stars like the ancient mariners who crossed the oceans to discover new lands. A triangle of constellations coalesced in front of her, a spectral gateway to realms unimagined. Orinoco passed through the gate and shot across the cosmos faster than the speed of light. Her vision climaxed in an incandescent burst, brighter than 1,000 suns. She awoke, back on Earth, and found herself at the base of the steps that led up to the cave where her journey had begun. She had no memory of how she'd made her way down the monolithic mountain. The thought crossed her mind, maybe she'd never gone up, and that the whole journey had happened in a vision. But none of that mattered. She had her vision, she knew her path. She stood and raced homeward through the jungle, eager to share her experience with her family, especially Grandmother Magdalena. Orinoco caught a look of something on her hands as she ran. She stopped and examined them, stunned to find 3 tattoos on the backs of her hands and both index fingers. On the back of her left hand was a salamander. On the back of the right one was a spider. As she brought her thumbs and fingers together to form a triangle, the snake tattoo crossed from one index finger to the other, half of the serpent on each finger splitting it in 2. Orinoco looked more closely at the tattoos. Each had a pattern of dots on its body. A single dot on the salamander, 3 dots on the spider, and several on the snake. She realized from her father's training that the dots represented constellations. Sirius was the single dot on the salamander. This made sense, since that was the star that illuminated her path out of the elemental salamander's lair. The 3 dots on the arachnid were Orion's belt. That constellation was symbolized by a spider in many ancient South American cultures, rather than by a hunter, as in the Northern Hemisphere. Finally, the string of dots along the serpent's body had to be the constellation Draco, the dragon, which after all is a giant serpent. Orinoco had been marked by the 3 elementals so that her vision and her destiny would never be forgotten. She walked through the jungle, her heart calm and filled with a sense of purpose. She didn't know where her journey among the stars would take her, but she knew her life would never be the same. There you go. Did you enjoy that? Yes. Thank you. So that'll be in the 3rd book. So you have to get through the 2nd one coming out in the new year before you even get to that. The story is a story within the story that serves a different purpose, which you will find out when you get to the 3rd book. So there are clues within clues within clues within it. So, thank you. If we are ready, I'll let Bashar come through. How are you all? All right. Thank you. Orinoco's Quest. You have been told this story this night of your time because this is a representation of a shamanistic journey. And by following many of the principles, by anchoring to the earth, by opening to its secrets, by expressing yourself more as nature rather than simply being within nature, you all become your own version of the idea of a shaman. Able to ground yourself firmly to Gaia, the earth, and yet then simultaneously be capable of reaching to the stars, the heights, other realities, other dimensions, other beings, other consciousnesses. Also, this story
coming from what you call your future shows you the kinds of things you can experience now, but will experience on the future earth. When the elementals are revealed to you through the increase of the vibration of your senses, when the hybrids have landed upon your world and begin to blend with your society. But the story is told to you now as a seed that will grow within you, not only to allow you to take that vibration into your hearts, into your minds, and in your spirits, and allow it to grow for future generations, but also for yourselves to begin your own shamanistic journey within. To open your senses to the things that are around you all the time that are simply invisible now, which may be revealed to you as you heighten your senses, refine your senses, and allow your senses to be better receivers of higher frequency vibrations and energies and information. Thus, tonight begins a different journey, a journey that you can walk through the coming years on a path that is stable and true and well illuminated by your own inner light, to see you through all of the things that shall be coming in the days and years ahead, as the splitting prism continues to bifurcate the different parallel realities that you are capable of experiencing on your world. A world of many worlds, overlapping or side by side, divided by clear glass walls, through which you may, for a time, see other realities, including those you may not prefer, but which cannot affect you because they cannot reach you through the glass wall. This splitting prism will continue to create more and more and more probable reality options and opportunities for each and every one of you. So again, this story is given to you this night of your time to act as a guide, to act as a rudder, to help you navigate through that splitting prism, through the eye of the storm that we will discuss tomorrow of your time, and allow you to walk true, aligned with the compass needle of your signature frequency, so that you may always know what direction in which to head, unerring to your magnetic north that draws you from the future self. Because now, as we have said, you're going to be far more informed by your own future selves than by your past selves. You are tipping the scale, crossing the threshold, where there is more magnetism, more energy coming from your future selves than from the past. The past self is now letting you go, giving you permission to lock into that magnetic wave that urges you forward into more of your own future self. This story of the shamanistic path is given to you so that you will recognize through synchronicity the guardians on the path that will help you. And though there may be tests and challenges, fear them not. For this story gives you the insight to walk the path as Orinoco did, as Orinoco will. To allow yourself to walk side by side with your future self until you step into its footprints and become that which you have for so long considered to be beyond you, which now can be with you, which you now can be, which you now can own within your own being, and walking on that path in those footsteps, on that quest. Fear not the unknown. Fear not the dark caves ahead, For from the unknown you shall discover nothing but more of yourself. And from the unknown, no matter what comes out of it, it will also bring with it all the tools you need to handle it, to work with it, to transform it into more and more knowledge of yourself, more and more awareness of your being, of your spirit, of your truth. Orinoco's quest is the seed which will guide you. So walk the path with firm resolve. You can bring with you the wisdom of the past, the wisdom of the ancestors, as Orinoco did. But use it facing forward, not looking back. For as your year of 2020 comes upon you, from within your own language, it is not only, as we have said, the 2020 vision of looking forward, but the 2020 hindsight of understanding everything you have been, to bring with you in great clarity, to be able to walk with clarity into your future self. Orinoco's quest is your quest to discover yourself, your true self, your whole self.